Hello, this is Scotty with a Black Talk Radio news report and commentary. Please continue to support the nonprofit Black Talk Media Project, which is managing the blacktalkradionetwork.com, which was ranked in 2019 as the #1 digital radio and audio podcasting platform that's just focusing on the black community. We are truly grassroots independent media. This is a very important podcast that I want to do, and it relates to something that I believe we need in the black community in terms of making sure our people are getting the right information and make sure black people who are being targeted by various corporations and what have you, and then even independent YouTubers like Roland Martin, who we will be discussing. But I posted on social media about the need for a Media Matters type platform. If you've never heard of Media Matters is I guess you would call it a democratic or left-leaning nonprofit media organization that tracks all the different news from various right-wing sources and then points out the disinformation or the fake news that they are putting out. Now, I know we don't have a whole lot of black media, certainly not black-owned media, hence the need of that I thought we needed Black Talk Media Project, a nonprofit, to focus on helping black people create their own media platforms and be the media that they want to see. But we get hit with a lot of disinformation now. It was about a month ago. I was listening to Al Sharpton's, I think it's WGON or WVON out of Chicago, which could have just been syndicating his program. I'm not sure where Al Sharpton actually broadcasts from, but he was putting out some fake news. He had on Tiffany Cross, who is a mainstream media professional pundit, who was also good friends with Roland Martin. She's been on his show a couple of times. But Al Sharpton and her was putting out fake news about the Bernie Sanders campaign. Now, I noted in 2016 that these high-profile black people in corporate media don't like Bernie Sanders. I don't know if y'all recall, but when Roland Martin still had a job in the corporate media for News One, and they partnered with CNN to do a debate, and Roland Martin slipped Hillary Clinton some debate questions, which was totally unethical and against the rules, and he won't comment it on today. He has not denied this. What was her name? Donna Brazile revealed this in her book, and he just simply act like it didn't happen. We also saw him buck dancing with Hillary Clinton. When I'm saying buck dancing, doing the wobble and all that kind of nonsense and what have you. And I tell you, man, but Roland Martin's at it again. He's at it again, promoting fake news. And then you got these outlets like the Grio reporting fake news. And y'all should recognize that although the Grio was started by, I believe, Henry Louis Gates, he sold off a portion of it. I don't even think that he's in charge anymore. He may still have a position there, but they sold it off to Univision. Univision was a subject of a podcast I did concerning Bernie Sanders, when you had Juan Ramos asking Bernie Sanders about, does he consider Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, to be a socialist dictator? And so these are capitalists. These are diehard capitalists, bloodsuckers, who just simply don't like Bernie Sanders. And they know that they will not get a job with the Sanders campaign because he doesn't cater to special interests. He is not a corrupt politician. He's not going to be handing out any butter biscuits to undeserved Negroes for carrying out nefarious plans of their DNC masters and what have you. And I hate to come down hard on Roland Martin like this, because he's trying to be an independent outlet. Although he doesn't own his own platform, he's utilizing YouTube, which a lot of people do. But, you know, when you're truly independent, You have your own platform. You don't rely on these others to do your distribution for you. You don't rely on those ads from YouTube and what have you. And so when I went into creating the Black Talk Radio Network over 10 years ago, I created a nonprofit because I wasn't looking to monetize information. Our people are information starved. Malcolm X pointed out to me in a video, of course, not personally, but in a video, he said media is the most powerful entity on the face of the planet. It controls the minds of the masses. It can make the innocent look guilty and the guilty look innocent. And so that's why I say we need a platform that's dedicated to listening to these media outlets, targeting black people, watching these black pundits, these professional corporate pundits and what have you, and just monitoring them for fake news that they putting out to our people. If you want to know why in South Carolina you have Joe Biden polling so high among quote unquote black people, well, couple of things related to South Carolina polling, which I saw, Roland Martin pushing that poll today and trying to make it look like black folks are so in love with Joe Biden and what have you. Look, most of these polls do not talk to everyday grassroots people. They target certain people. And you better believe that those black folks that they are polling in South Carolina, first let me say this, South Carolina is almost dead last in terms of education. So if you want to know why so many black folks might be miseducated or misinformed when it comes to politics, that might play a reason into it. I think they're like number 48 or 47 ranked in the nation in terms of education quality and what have you. But then, also a lot of these are older voters. These are older voters that they're polling. Okay, these are people who only get their information from mainstream media. These are people who perhaps in the 90s was begging Congress to do something about the crack epidemic that was let loose on the community by the CIA in the Reagan administration, and then it continued up until Bill Clinton's administration. But these are the black people that was begging Congress for a mass incarceration bill. Okay, Joe Biden gave them that bill. So that could be a part of the reason why they're supporting him. And then for a very dumb reason is simply because they were so in love with Barack Obama, first African-American president, first black president, and Joe Biden was his vice president. And so they are transferring their love for Obama over to Uncle Joe, who I like to call Jim Crow Joe, considering his history of working with segregationists, which Kamala Harris exposed in one of those debates, and he took a hit on that. But he was working with segregationists, and here's something you probably didn't hear from these black media outlets about Joe Biden. Joe Biden actually did more than mistreat Anita Hill in terms of the questioning and allowing these racist white men to just drill her and be so mean to the woman who was a sexual assault victim. Okay, Joe Biden was doing more than that. He was going behind the scenes, talking to Democratic senators and undermining Anita Hill's testimony. At the same time, he was guaranteeing, even called Clarence Thomas, who was the SCOTUS nominee by, I believe, was it Reagan at the time? Might have been one of the Bushes. I'm not exactly sure. But some of Clarence Thomas' black conservative friends spilled the beans here last month and said that he assured Clarence Thomas that he would be confirmed. Okay? So these people not getting that information. That's why they perhaps are supporting Joe Biden. And again, this is why we need local, independent black media. Okay? whether it's digital radio, whether it is video, or a combination of both. We have reached a lot of people in 10 years, millions of people in 10 years when we created Black Talk Radio Network. But the network mostly focuses on national issues and, global issues. It doesn't really give people that localized information that they really need to know what's going on in their city, their town, their county, or their state. And you heard the saying, all politics is local. Well, we need local Black news media to make sure our people are getting the proper information from an objective news source. And we don't have that. And we can thank the Clintons for that. 1996 Telecommunications Act allowed these big corporations owned by white people to have more than, I think, they were limited to just a few stations in any given market, whether we're talking radio or television. Well, the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which Bernie Sanders spoke out against, they were allowed to saturate these markets, buy up these stations and what have you, and the independent Black media just couldn't compete. They went out of business. All right. And so, what these white corporations did was just hire some Black faces or some Black voices to then act like this is a Black station when it's not owned, it's not controlled. The directives are not coming from Black people. And and again, speaking of Roland Martin, it's just so sad that when a person who has worked in media for so long, in Black media particularly for so long, has an opportunity to create independent media, and he's still buck dancing for the corporations, who's still buck dancing for the white establishment. All right, it's just a shame, and to be giving our people this false information. I don't know what he's looking for. Of course, it's always butter biscuits in the equation when Black people do not act in ethical and just manners, especially consider reporting. Now, I asked Roland Martin on Twitter, hey, concerning the 1996 Telecommunications Act, Bernie Sanders just published this op-ed piece. He's come out with a bill, a plan to restore Black media and to even support nonprofit minority media and give them money, but wants to roll back the harm that was done to why we no longer have a lot of Black independent media. He wants to rectify that situation. And I asked him, why haven't you had him on? Will you have him on? He told me, I already covered that, bro. You late. No, you didn't cover it. You might have talked about the 1996 Telecommunications Act some time ago, but you did not mention Bernie Sanders' article in the context of Black media. You didn't invite him on or any of his surrogates to come on and talk about this media plan that would help us regain what we lost. Okay? You just didn't do it. All right, now, I didn't really have a plan to do a podcast tonight. I was going to do a podcast for New Abolitionist Radio, taking a look at the Amber Geiger trial, because a lot of the coverage I've seen is not touching upon underlying issues and very relevant issues. But I had to do something for one of my family members, and I wasn't able, to get my sources together in order to do a proper radio broadcast. So I decided I'm just going to do it tomorrow. But as I was watching some of the YouTube channels that I subscribe to, like the Progressive Soapbox, the Rational National, I was just letting it go on autoplay. And then Roland Martin's live program, it rolls into that while I was doing something else, while I was just listening. First they started talking about the Botham trial and not the Botham trial, but the Geiger trial for murdering Botham John. Okay, so then they start talking about Bernie Sanders having a heart stent or artery stent put in. And when he opened up and said this was major heart surgery, fake news alerts went off in my head, because I had already had forewarning that black corporate media, or those who trying to get back into corporations' favor, was going to be targeting Bernie Sanders with this same fake news. But I first got a clue from this when I was on Twitter. I saw the Grio, who I have often criticized, and for some of their disinformation and just towing the corporate line and not really being objective and what have you. So I wasn't surprised to see this fake news come from the Grio concerning Bernie Sanders' procedure he had today. So let me just start off with Roland Martin, which his show is live right now, but I had to stop this because, again, this is why we need y'all to really support our nonprofit and make some of those tax-deductible donations so I can hire a staff. I'm just a staff of one. You know what I'm saying? Although we got different hosts and what have you on the Black Talk Radio Network and different programs, the Black Talk Media Project for 10 years has been a staff of one. I've had 2, maybe 3 volunteers over the years, and I don't really criticize people for not volunteering because I really haven't asked for volunteers. Some people have approached me, hey, how can I help you? How can I volunteer? And that's great. But I think people should be paid for their work. Okay, some of the volunteers we've had have been college students, which helps them with their college credits. So, that was cool and what have you. But, we really need a fact-checking platform just for black media, so that we won't be fooled. We won't be given all this disinformation. So, like I stated, let me start with this audio from Roland Martin and how he intro a segment on Bernie Sanders having his stent put in one of his arteries because he has some blockage. All right, so let me see if I can find that and roll it. Here we are. Let me make sure my audio level's right.
What you got going on here? So, all right, folks, gonna go to a break and come back. Bernie Sanders off the campaign trail after having a heart issue. Is it over? Well, the 78-year-old will discuss next. Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered?
Okay, so what you just heard is almost verbatim what The Root put out, calling this, this is serious heart issue and what have you. Is his campaign over? Is it over for him? Now, I'm not going to even play some of the stuff from the segment, but I have already previewed some of the other panelists on there, and they were just carrying Roland's water, taking their cues from him. And you had this black woman over there talking about, this is a serious issue and he's old and all this and that and what have you. I didn't hear these same people that was out there buck dancing for Hillary Clinton in 2016 when she fell out at a public event and had to be carried back to the car, a waiting car. I didn't hear them questioning her health and her fitness to become POTUS. They weren't bringing up her age or nothing. No, they weren't doing that. So where did Roland Martin get his cue from? He got his cue from an unverified article from The Root. And let me just pull it up. It says it was written by Monique Judge. Never heard of her because I'm not a big fan of The Root. But it is in their political section. Could this be the end of Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign? Well, this came out before Roland started his program, so it's clear and evident where he's taking his cues from, because I have seen no other reporting on this. No other reporting. I was watching the Rational National right before Roland Martin came on, and he was giving props to The View. That's with Whoopi Goldberg and those other people, women on that morning show, and how they were covering it in an objective manner and pointing out that, hey, this wasn't serious. Anybody at any age could be affected by their health, and we sending light and love and and want, prayers for Sanders to recover. So, but getting back to Monique Judge, this is an article that turned up in the Root. Could this be the end of the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign? Bernie Sanders, the 78-year-old three-term senator from Vermont, who is the longest-serving independent member of Congress in American history, he also served in the House of Representatives for 16 years, was hospitalized after experiencing chest discomfort during a campaign event Tuesday evening. According to the New York Times, Jeff Weaver, a longtime advisor to Sanders, read the following statement in measured tones to staffers on a 10:30 Eastern conference call Wednesday morning. During a campaign event yesterday evening, Senator Sanders experienced some chest discomfort following the medical evaluation and testing. He was found to have a blockage in one artery, and 2 stents were successfully inserted. Senator Sanders is conversing and in good spirits. He will be resting up over the next few days. Now, that's important, right? Over the next few days, he'll be resting. We are canceling his events and appearances until further notice, and we will continue to provide appropriate updates. So even though he's only going to be resting a few days, here we got the Root. Here we got Roland Martin. Is this the end of Bernie Sanders' campaign? By the way, another fake news that this woman put out on Roland Martin's platform was saying that Sanders is doing very poorly in the polls, and of course they was pushing Elizabeth Warren. I don't know why. When Sanders has the most support from the grassroots, non-white people, black and Latino and others, has the most grassroots, 1 million donors, sets a record, $25 million raised in his third quarter, 1 million volunteers to his campaign to get out there and knock on doors and make phone calls. Nobody is doing that. But she's he's sinking in the polls and all this and that. No, Sanders is not sinking in the polls. His poll numbers have remained steady. He has been consistently polling number 2 behind Joe Biden, and that's why Joe Biden jumped in. The establishment does not want Sanders in his quote-unquote socialist policies that's going to help people who need help the most. They don't want this man in there. They trying to protect their Wall Street investments and what have you. So, and he's also been polling number 1 in a few polls as well. But again, this is why we need to check the fake news, no matter where it's coming from. But as black people, we definitely need to check the information that is being targeted towards us. It goes on to read, Sanders has canceled several events he scheduled to attend, including a gun policy forum in Las Vegas on Wednesday and a trip to California later in the week. The Times also reports that the Sanders campaign was set to have campaign ads begin airing on television in Iowa this week, but according to ad tracking service Medium Buying, these ads have been canceled. Now, he's already released one ad, because we were talking about it on Twitter yesterday. This guy was asking, well, what do y'all think about Bernie's first ad in Iowa? And my opinion was it was not as good as the ads that's being released on the internet. So I don't know if those are two different teams, but the guys that and girls, guys and gals, or I should say the people who have been producing his internet ads, which previously worked on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez campaign, they've been doing a good job. I thought the Iowa ad was bland. That's the best way I can describe it. It was pretty bland. Who knows? Whatever. Typical general campaign ad. Granted, it was the first one. Now, canceling these other ads could be related to anything. Okay? Who knows? I don't think it's related to him ending his campaign, because he's not ending his campaign. Okay? So to infer that because they canceled some ads, did you reach out to the Sanders campaign to see what was going on there? The Root? You know, he does have his. Did you reach out to Nina Sanders? Did you reach out to his national press secretary? Both of them, black women. Not Nina Sanders, Nina Turner. All right, the president of his campaign. Did you reach out to anybody in their campaign and ask them what's the reason for canceling these ad buys? You're just going to assume because they were canceled, it's related to this procedure, this medical procedure he had. Now, it says Sanders is not currently leading in any of the first 4 competitive states. He's in 3rd place in Iowa, South Carolina, and New Hampshire, and in 2nd place in Nevada. Nationally, he's at 16.7%, trailing behind former Vice President Joe Biden at 26.1% and Senator Elizabeth Warren at 24.4%. And again, let me say this again. I'm not going to say polls don't matter. I'm not going to say that. But you have to realize they only sampling at most 1,000 people. And then, you have to also look at, well, who are they talking to? Who are they polling? Did you ever get a polling phone call? I've never got one in my life, although I've been registered to vote since the 1980s. Nobody's ever polled me, so I don't even know how they pick these people. But again, the only polls that really matter is those polls on election day. And I'll say this again about the polls, because see, they're just following something I'm seeing in the mainstream media. There, you had Nate Silver, who wrongly predicted, who's supposed to be this math guy, statistician and whatnot, who wrongly predicted that Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump. Now he's got egg on his face. But he put out something trying to spin Sanders' money raising total, coming in first in money raised in this last quarter. And I think over the course of the entire campaign thus far, he's raised the most money out of all of them, all from small donors, no super PACs, no corporate money, nothing from the lobbyists. Although Elizabeth Warren did roll over that corporate money from her Senate campaign, and she has said that she will take this lobbyist money from these corporations if she wins the nomination. So that's the distinction. Bernie Sanders is not beholden to these corporate powers. He's not beholden to dark money. He's beholden to his grassroots supporters. But Nate Silver tried to say that, him raising that money don't really mean anything. The best thing to look at to gauge how much support a person got out there is to look at the polls. But then he got busted because a few years ago, not a few years ago, I'm not exactly when he posted this, but he said the best indicator on support out there for how well a candidate, he was talking about Congress at the time, is how much money they raise. And that's better indicator of how much support they have than looking at polls. But now he's changed his tone, and this guy is constantly trolling Sanders supporters. Now, this article goes on to read, it says, the Roots politics editor Jason Johnson said Wednesday morning, we don't know if this the end of the Sanders campaign or not. Well, at least he's being honest there. But the fact that he is canceling ad buys 3 months out suggests to me that bare minimum, he does not think he's going to be back on the campaign trail in a serious way for at least the next month. So that doesn't make sense, okay? It would make more sense that he would be going ahead with these ads if he's not going to be campaigning, right? Instead of there just being a total blackout. Again, we don't know the reason why these ad buys was canceled. Mr. The Roots politics editor Jason Johnson didn't bother to inquire with the Sanders campaign to find out, hey, maybe it was a problem with the ad. Maybe we changed our mind with the ad and we're going to cancel those and we're going to come up with something new, okay? So it's just crazy, man. The bias, fake news that is targeting us. It says, next, the biggest challenge his campaign faces right now. Sanders was already losing ground to Elizabeth Warren. It is highly unlikely that he will make the next debate. And if he has a 78-year-old candidate misses the next debate because of heart trouble, that's going to be extremely damaging to him on the campaign trail should he return, Johnson continues. So that's the end of that story. Fake news all around, fake news. When is the next debates? Okay, now I was hearing on the Rational National YouTube channel today, a progressive who's based in Canada, and he was saying that Sanders people was saying that he's in high spirit, as I read earlier. I think I read that press release that was included in the Root article, but he was saying that you got people that's trying to make Bernie Sanders sit down and get some rest. He ready to jump back out there right now. Okay? Now, the way that the Essence covered, Essence magazine, essence.com, who has a political editor who, I really am supporting. I like her professionalism. Her name is Kirsten West Savali. I follow her on Twitter, and I had an exchange with her when she announced she was getting that job at Essence, and she was like, hold me accountable. Hold me accountable. I want y'all to hold me accountable. All right. And that's what I'm attempting to do with this video with Roland Martin in the Root. It's hold them accountable for putting out this fake news. This is the way she reported it. Senator Bernie Sanders, Democrat, Vermont, is pausing his 2020 presidential campaign after undergoing heart surgery to remove an artery blockage, CNBC reports. Sanders, 78, experienced chest pain during the event Tuesday in Las Vegas, Nevada. A medical evaluation revealed a blockage in one artery, and he had 2 stents inserted, according to the senator's advisor, Jeff Weaver. Same thing that was in the Root article, because they just quoting, what was put out by the campaign. Senator Sanders is conversing in good spirits. He will be resting up over the next few days, Weaver said Wednesday. We are canceling his events and appearances until further notice, and we will continue to provide appropriate updates. Same quote from the Root article. Sanders was in Las Vegas for a memorial ceremony on the 2-year anniversary of the largest gun massacre in U.S. history. During Sanders' 2016 presidential run, his longtime doctor, congressional physician Brian Moynihan, found the senator to be in very good health with no history of cardiovascular disease. You didn't hear any doctors being quoted in the Root or Roland Martin, although I only let you hear the opening part. I listened to the rest. They didn't give out any correct or accurate medical information associated with this type of procedure. She goes on to write, as the oldest candidate in the presidential race, the senator said in a political interview last year that he's aware his age could become a part of the conversation, but that he's blessed with his health. It's a part of a discussion, but it has to be part of an overall view of what somebody is and what somebody has accomplished. Sanders, 77 at the time, said, look, you've got people who are 50 years of age who are not well, right? You've got people who are 90 years of age who are going to work every day doing excellent work. And obviously age is a factor, but it depends on the overall health and well-being of the individual. I didn't hear anything from Kirsten West Savali about, it's the end of the Sanders campaign and gloating and all this. I don't know what's wrong with Roland Martin. Why he hates Sanders so much. Maybe, Hillary Clinton, in exchange for getting those debate questions slid to her under the table by Roland Martin and Donna Brazile, were going to give him a position in her campaign or in her presidency, as a communications director, maybe as a White House spokesperson or something. I don't know why Roland Martin would risk his career, and indeed he did get fired and let go soon after it was discovered. He slipped these questions to Hillary Clinton. But you didn't hear any of that from this Essence.com article, again written by Kirsten West Savali. That's what objective professional journalism looks like. Not rumors, not innuendo, not fake news. But real reporting. Now, I was on Twitter on the Roots thread, and again, this is where Roland Martin got his cue from, because nobody else is reporting this exactly like the Root, except for him and his panelists, just parroting what was in that article. I wonder if he let them read the article first and say, look, this is where we're gonna roll with this, okay? So anyway, I had posted on that thread. That this was not a serious health issue, okay? And I posted something from a doctor, what is this doctor's name? Gupta or something, who's on CNN, okay? And I'm gonna let y'all hear that audio. This is what's being reported. And let me read, this was posted by Ryan Nobles. Important context on the Bernie Sanders health situation from Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He makes it clear that Sanders did not have open heart surgery. The lack of an intense operation means the recovery could be much quicker. Gupta explains the reality of the recovery time here. So let me go ahead and roll this clip.
And there's no question there's a degree of seriousness about this. What sounds like happened, Senator...
Let me stop that and turn up the audio for you so that you can hear it clearly.
There's no question there's a degree of seriousness about this. What sounds like happened, Senator had some discomfort. How long he's been having that discomfort, we don't know. But certainly it was serious enough that he decided to go to the hospital. What they typically do at that point is inject some dye into the blood vessels that lead to his heart to try and see if there's blockages. In his case, it sounds like they found one that was significant enough to put in a stent to open up that blockage. And most people may know what that means, but basically you're putting in it looks like a balloon sort of holding open the blood vessel and then putting in a cage to keep that blood vessel open. We know we had a second stent placed as well. We don't know if that was another blood vessel, it was the same blood vessel. Nevertheless, what likely happens at that point is the senator starts to feel better. When you're not getting enough blood flow to a muscle, it hurts. When you open up that blood flow, it starts to feel better, and that feeling better can happen pretty quickly. So he's up, he's talking now. He probably needs to be on blood thinners for a period of time. But the recovery, typically they say 7 to 10 days, but John, you know better than anybody, candidates, they are different than most human beings, so maybe shorten that by half, 4 to 7 days instead of 7 to 10 days would be a reasonable recovery time.
And before I let you go, Sanjay, to that point, candidates, not only is he aggressive, not only is he want to get back out there on the trail, not only is he a very, very, very vigorous campaigner, he travels all the time, constantly. You're talking about 18, 20-hour days. You're talking about airplanes and bus rides. What is a doctor going to say to somebody who says, when I leave here, once you tell me I'm good to go, I'm really going?
I think that, one of the things to keep in mind is the reason these procedures are done is to get someone back to their way of life. It's to make them feel better, it's to ultimately lengthen their life, hopefully, but really it's to get them back to their way of life. So that is part of the game. The only thing I would say is that the recovery this is not open heart surgery. People refer to this as heart stent surgery. That's really not the right way to think about it. It is, at no point did he actually have an operation. So the recovery from that part of it should be pretty quick. He's likely to be on blood thinners, medications that thin your blood for a period of time. That shouldn't prevent him from doing any of the things you just mentioned, John, but it's something they're going to just have to be more mindful of, certainly. Even little cuts can turn into something more serious. That's things that they're going to be mindful of. It's not to say that he'll need to be on that the rest of his life necessarily, but that's going to be one of the considerations, I think, going forward.
Okay, so there you heard it from a real doctor. Not one who's just playing one on TV or speculating about medical matters that they know nothing about. And, real time right here, I tagged Roland Martin in this, and he responded. He says, dude, I said he had a heart procedure. Pay attention. This is what I said. Add Roland Martin to the list of black media outlets targeting Sanders with fake news. He must have read this from the Grio because his opening remarks were almost verbatim. Folks, we need a black news fact-checking website similar to Media Matters. What are you talking about, Roland? I ain't say nothing about what you said about if it was heart surgery or anything like that. All I said was, dude, this is where you got your report. It's from the Grio. You're parroting what you heard from the Grio. And again, I subscribe to your channel. I've been supportive of you. Because I know the lack of black media, and everything you put out isn't bad in my opinion. You know, you bring us a lot of perspectives from black people and what have you. But dude, you got a bias towards Sanders. You really do. You really, really do. Just like the other day I pointed out, how you going to talk about this story out of Maryland and HBCUs and trying to get $100 million or however much from HBCUs, and you talk about the underfunding of HBCUs and you know, in this case, public universities, and then you not bring up Sanders' bill, which has been co-sponsored by Elizabeth Warren, also Kamala Harris. They're co-sponsors of this bill, College for All Act, which would provide over $1 billion a year to private HBCUs, but would also, in terms of the public HBCUs, like up there in Maryland, would cover 67% of the cost, and it's all paid for by not higher taxes on you, not higher taxes on the middle class, but on a very small tax on Wall Street speculation. How do you talk about HBCUs, funding HBCUs, and not talk about the most progressive bill out there to fund HBCUs and public colleges and universities? So, dude, I just think you clearly have a bias against Bernie Sanders, okay? Yeah, that's an opinion, but I base my opinions off of observations, and I just don't pull stuff out my behind and make them up, okay? We need a fact-checking site. We need a fact-checking site, and y'all can go check out Roland's podcast on YouTube, on his YouTube channel, and you can see that this coverage was basically parroting this nonsense about, could this be the end of the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign? Did you not say that, Roland? Yes, you did, because we rolled the audio on that, okay? Look, folks, we have what's called gatekeepers, these professional, highly paid pundits who have these ties to the establishment. They would not be DNC consultants if they was giving you actual facts on the ground, okay? If they was really, really, really being objective, and I've noticed this over the years, that's again why I created Black Talk Media Project, because we weren't getting the right type of information because of the lack of real black radio and podcasts and what have you. So this is why we need to support Black Talk Media Project with a tax deductible. I'm gonna emphasize tax deductible donation. Not talking about any super chats or you know, I'm not running an LLC media company. I'm not a for-profit company. I did not go into this to make money, to become a multi-millionaire or even a millionaire or 100,000-aire. No, I did this because I had a calling on my life after watching a video by Malcolm X talking about the power of media, and then doing my research and finding out why when I would turn on the radio, all I can find is white talk radio in terms of politics, okay? And we really, really need that. And we can only do this type of work with your support. Now, right now, I don't have the funding. I can't hire anybody, a staff to set up a separate platform like Media Matters to track, fact check black media, whether it's the radio, whether it's the television, whether it's YouTube from these mainstream outlets, and making sure that we're holding them accountable to a high standard, a high ethical journalistic standard. I can't do that, but what I can do is do podcasts. When you send me stories of what you suspect to be fake news from outlets targeting black people or fake news coming out the mouths of black people. I'll do the research for you. I will fact check that article. I'll fact check that video, and then I'll put out a report. So you can send those to me at blacktalkradiobaby@gmail.com. That's blacktalkradiobaby@gmail.com. You can also send them to info@blacktalkmediaproject.org. That's info@blacktalkmediaproject.org. And just put in the title fact check or fake news check. All right. And I'm only checking black journalists and outlets that may not necessarily be owned by black people, but they're certainly targeting us. All right. So with that said, I'm going to say good day to you or good evening to you, wherever you may be. Peace and blessings to all.